everyone, and welcome to Healthwatch. I'm your host, Carolyn Wilson with Ledgelight Health District. The goal of this program is to bring you a wide range of interesting and important health topics and to introduce you to the great people doing important work across the community. Today, I'm joined by Barbara Kalpin from the Bettor Choice Program at United Community and Family Services, also known as UCFS. Barbara, welcome to the show.
Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I'd like to start today by getting to know you a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to UCFS?
Well, as you know, the Bettor Choice Program is a gambling treatment program, and I am the peer counselor of this program. We have our 2 clinicians and our supervisor. And as peer counselor, I am somebody with lived experience from gambling addiction. And my gambling brought me down this road. My background is legal. I was a paralegal for 26 years. And my gambling, caused severe consequences for me that I ended up having, to switch careers because of it. And in doing so, I then at that point was kind of left at a point in my life where I didn't know what I was going to do. I was in recovery from my gambling addiction, and I was a participant in the Bettor Choice Program, but in another region. And they suggested that, with the lived experience, this is the road you should take. You don't realize you could be so helpful to people. And, in the beginning, you're like, yeah, no, I'm not. Who's going to care? How am I going to help anybody or anything like that? So I looked, they persuaded me. I looked into it, and UCFS had this opening. So I started down here. I went to training for a recovery support specialist and got certified in the state of Connecticut as an RSS, they call it. And I've been here now 3 years, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. And, I think we're hearing more and more about peer-based models in recovery for many different behavioral health issues. And that's really remarkable that you're able to help people. Now, the Bettor Choice Program, tell me a little bit about that.
We are gambling specific, obviously. We're a grant funded by the state of Connecticut through DEMIS. Services are offered throughout Connecticut. There's 5 regions, and we each have a Bettor Choice program in each of the regions. One of the best things about this program that people don't realize is that services are offered at no cost. Since we are grant funded, if people don't have insurance, they have co-pays, or if for some reason they don't want to run it through their insurance, because some people don't want their employer to realize that they're getting gambling addiction treatment for, whatever reason, the grant will pay for their services. Mm-hmm. So we're a very unique program in that we offer that, and I know when I went through the Bettor Choice Program, I didn't pay a dime for my services.
That's really remarkable. It creates a lot of access to the program, which is nice, not having those cost or insurance barriers.
Yep.
How many people would you say that the Bettor Choice Program serves?
Oh, that's a hard question. Because it's not so much the numbers, it's because it's the community. Like we serve the whole southeastern community, southeastern Connecticut. And in doing so, it's hard to say exact numbers. I'm sure somewhere at the state of Connecticut level, they have it down to the pack of how many we serve or whatever. At any given time, it changes all the time. Because people will call me to help them with one thing, they'll call the clinician or whatever. So actually, it's obviously based on community need.
Right.
But actual numbers are a little hard to give definite.
Right. Understood. So it is Gambling Awareness Month, mm-hmm. the month of March. And I'm so glad that you could meet with me so we could talk about it a little bit. I bet there's a lot of messaging and awareness raising going on right now, as there is with a lot of awareness months and recognition months. Are there any campaigns that are going on right now or extra advertising because it's problem gambling awareness month?
Yes. Yeah, and that's probably country-wise. That's across the country, because the National Council on Problem Gambling obviously recognizes March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And the whole goal of the month is to increase public awareness of problem gambling and the availability of prevention, treatment, and recovery services. So every region, every council, every state has a problem gambling council. They all use this month to really push, and a lot of our goal is to bring awareness to people in, clinical services or whatever that aren't familiar with problem gambling, and have them ask the questions of people they're working with. Just one or two questions being asked can do a world of difference to bringing awareness to the
right, screening questions. Right. So, a lot of people, they know what gambling is. Some people, don't gamble at all. Some people love it. Some people have, opinions. Oh, I would never do that. To everybody who's watching this, what are 3 things that you think that people should know about problem gambling that might surprise them?
Great thing. Okay. I'd have to say, first of all, it's not about the money at all, which is a huge surprise to people, because people are like, it's gambling, it's about the money. And from a gambling addiction point of view, it's not about the money. It's about the way your brain works when you're gambling. And it's that same high that you get with other addictions. And people don't realize that. They really think it's just about, you need the money, almost like a selfish thing. You want the money, you're going to, it's all about the money. And it's really not about the money. Also, the anticipation of winning creates the same excitement in the brain as a win, which people don't realize that. People are like, what are you talking about? Of course you want to win. You're playing, you want to win. You want to see the 3 cherries. And that's not so necessarily true, because the brain reacts when you get a cherry and a bar, because it's that anticipation that I almost won. It's that I almost won. And people don't realize that. That would be another thing I'd have to say. The third thing I would say that people don't realize that a gambling addiction it's called gambling disordered, and it's listed in the DSM-5 as an actual addiction. And that didn't come to play until May 2014. Before that, it was listed in other addictions. It was mentioned gambling, it was pathological gambling, it was in as other addictions. But in the 2014, it became its actual own, gambling disorder addiction in the DSM-5. And I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of things are really old in that guidebook, but it's interesting as we learn more about the brain and, what the people are going through. I think that's really interesting. Thank you for that. I just learned something. So we hear a lot about hotlines, right? We've got all sorts of hotlines out there. We hear about the suicide prevention Lifeline is a popular one. We hear about the poison control hotline. That's another one that's a little bit different. I know that there's the Connecticut quit line for tobacco. Tell me about hotlines for problem gambling.
The Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have recently in this past probably 3 months, 4 months since online gambling has taken a hold at the casinos and at the Connecticut Lottery, has the 24/7 hotline. It's 888-789-7777. And their hotline is, like I said, 24/7. So if you're at the casino at 2 a.m. and you're having a problem, or you think you have a problem and you need to talk to somebody, that they can call that number and you will be connected right to somebody who will, listen to you, talk to you, get your services, and, refer you out to any, they have many resources, and, they'll refer to us if you're in our region. one of the other regions, just depending on the situation of the person. That number is advertised throughout our area casinos. It's advertised at the lottery spots, in the gas stations and stuff like that. So that is our Connecticut hotline number that people can call. We at the Bettor Choice here, if somebody wanted to call directly here, we do have our helpline number, which is 860-823-3094, but it is on our UCFS.org website also that people can look at. They can always call us directly too. They don't have to feel the need to call the hotline, the 1-800 hotline. If they know that they're in our region and they're looking for services, they can call us directly.
Awesome. That's great to know. That's super important. So would you say like right now, you've noticed an increase in people using the hotline or reaching out to Bettor Choice?
Yes, as since the online gambling, in the past 4 months, when I was just at, we were at a seminar on Thursday with CC, the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, and they told us their hotline in the past 4 months has quadrupled in number since it went online. They also gave us the percentage for Super Bowl Sunday, because their calls, now that sports betting is legal, so everybody on Super Bowl Sunday could bet, the hotline increased 1,133% from this Super Bowl Sunday compared to last Super Bowl Sunday.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, that's what I said. I sat there listening to these numbers and going, wow.
Yeah. Well, that's a really important statistic to know. And it's just about time for us to take a quick break. I can't wait to come back and talk more about this. Thanks for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us right back here on Healthwatch right after the break.
Gambling, including sports betting, can be a form of entertainment. The Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling encourages people to play responsibly. Help is available. Call 1-888-789-7777 or use our live chat feature at ccpg.org.
The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree will you be? The kind to hug or the kind to climb? Doesn't matter what you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Healthwatch. Today I'm joined by Barbara Kalpin from the Bettor Choice Program at UCFS, and we are talking about problem gambling. So Barbara, right before the break, we were talking a little bit about the hotline. And now I want to talk a little bit about co-occurring disorders. How often do people with a gambling disorder also have co-occurring disorders, like maybe a substance use disorder or another behavioral health disorder?
Percentage-wise, it's hard to give a percentage for that, but it does happen a lot. And the reason being is usually we find that people will exchange one addiction for another because, whether they've given up alcohol and then they turn to do something, gambling kind of starts giving them that same rush and it affects the brain the same way. So they kind of feed it that way. So, we do see it, fairly often on there. And they use it as a coping mechanism also because, they've given up that one addiction and they're coping with it and they're handling it, but then gambling sneaks in there on them.
Interesting. So, oftentimes, on this program, we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about substance use disorders and mental health. So it's interesting to see how problem gambling factors into all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about prevention, early onset, things like that. In my usual day to day, I focus a lot on prevention. So I always try to bring this up with every guest that I have as it applies. So when people are seeking help, how often do you find that they've been gambling since maybe an early age, or has the age of like the average person coming to see you, has that gone down at all?
That's an interesting question because, there's not just one type of gambler. You know what I mean? Like for me, in my story, if you ever heard my whole story, I gambled all my life. Was I considered, having a gambling addiction? No, until something went, I crossed the line, other life stressors went on to where it became an addiction. So you will see people like that, but you will also see, a woman in her 40s, 45, never gambled in her life, all of a sudden empty nester situation. So it's hard to pinpoint because there is a range. We'll get, as sad as it may be, we'll get a 75-year-old, come in and spending their Social Security money because, they're lonely, they have nothing else, their spouse passed away, situation like that. The trend has come into play that since the online sports betting and the online gambling has come into effect, where we are getting a good amount of calls from males between like 21 and 31, which is a very interesting, so in that respect, we've somehow have brought it down because of the online sports betting.
Right. Yeah. Interesting that you should say that, because I've always been kind of interested in the gaming, like some of the video
Yes.
gaming.
Yes.
For younger people, I hear that can sometimes lead to or be a precursor to other sorts of gambling. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. And there's a great website. His name is Camadir, and it's Game Quitters. And he will talk about his story where he had a gaming addiction. And with kids nowadays, unfortunately, we at the Bettor Choice treat 18 and above. But you would be surprised, and over the past few weeks, we have gotten calls from 17-year-olds looking for, help. And obviously, we have resources and we can, provide, help for them on there. But the gaming is definitely an issue.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. I mentioned that I do a lot of work in prevention. And we do, we talk about all things that, teenagers do and things that young adults do. And certainly that comes up every once in a while, the gaming. And we hear about these things called loot boxes and different ways you can spend money in the games that some parents may not know about. So it's one of the things on the horizon that I think could use some more awareness. So it's a good time to be talking about that today.
Sure, and it falls right under that initial definition of what is gambling: risking something to get an outcome unknown. You don't know the loot box. You don't know what you're going to get when you spend the money for it.
Right. So these different in-game features and shiny objects, we'll call them, like things, games of risk, all of that stuff. So certainly something to keep an eye on. What other trends are you seeing in problem gambling? Anything kind of interesting, anything different going on right now? Things that we're seeing more of?
Just more of because of the online. I mean, at the same time, one of the good things we're seeing, if you want to say there's a good thing about problem gambling, is the awareness is getting out there.
Right.
With the online gambling that's now come up, there's many more advertisements. People are getting bombarded. But at the end of those advertisements, the resources are being there. and there, people are knowing that there is help out there. So in one sense, there is good news out there because gambling is getting more awareness out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. Awareness is half the battle. We touched on this a little bit, but I've seen a couple of little snippets in the news that have really been focusing on this, and that's legal sports betting, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a fairly new thing we've been hearing. I've been hearing people say, I can't believe the amount of advertising. Mm-hmm. Have you been hearing that a lot?
Oh, yes. We couldn't believe the amount of advertising we were hearing, and then again, at the end of that, they'll spit out if you have a problem gambling, contact CCPG hotline, and they'll spit the hotline number out, but right. Yes, the advertising have been bombarding. We know from the advocacy level that they have been trying to argue to tone down the amount of advertising because it's a lot. I even had my son say to me, what is with all this advertising for this on here? So he's 15 years old. So if he's recognizing it, it's right. Scary.
Yeah, it's come up in a lot of my, in prevention meetings, my friends up at CRAC, we've been talking yes. about it. Like it's on the radio, on TV, on, you really mm-hmm. can't escape it. It's a lot of volume.
I just got an email today, which I just shook my head out after I read it. It happened in Pennsylvania, but I know it's going to come here. Is they sent a picture of a gift card with the two logos, which, I won't mention, but the logos that our online sports betting
yep.
have, that you can purchase a gift card so you can fund your online account.
Oh, wow.
Or give it to somebody to fund their online account with it. And I was like, oh no, this is what
wow.
It's going to come here. I know it is.
I would say that that's probably a huge trend. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that before.
That was the first, I just saw it this morning and I just shook my head.
Right. Well, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about recovery from problem gambling and what that looks like. So you provide peer-based services. Mm-hmm. What does it look like from like the first time you would make a phone call? Or what would a program like how does it work?
It all depends on the person's situation. They will somebody calls the hotline, they're referred just say to our program at the Bettor Choice. We will contact them within a 24-hour turnaround time, whether it's me or one of the clinicians directly, and they will try and schedule them immediately for an intake, come in and talk. We'll also talk, and it's not like, oh, okay, let's make an appointment. It's what's going on, because there's so many different levels of this. Mm-hmm. There may be legal levels where there's legal issues. Mm-hmm. They may be getting evicted out of their house and they don't have any money. And now they're at there's just so many stories. So we'll have, we'll see where they are. What's the situation? What do we need to do immediately for them? Because those different levels are tough to deal with. And once we know, then they'll come in and they'll meet with their clinician and, then I'll contact and reach out to them and they'll just take it from that, point of view, and whatever they need and however long we'll be there for them.
Right. Well, so no matter what's going on, there's somebody to help. That's a good thing to know.
Yes. Yep. And it's pretty immediate. It's not like, oh, you can have an appointment in 3 months or 2 months or right. It's immediate. Because obviously if somebody's calling a helpline, they need right. immediate help.
That's good to know. It sounds like there's some good accessibility there. Can't talk about March without March Madness. Yeah. Is that really a thing? And do people struggle with it?
Well, you got to remember, March Madness is really about the NCAA college tournaments basketball. It's really not about problem gambling. It only, the NCPG, when they started the problem gambling awareness month, it was only for a week. It was only for like the final championships game. But then obviously it does become a big, betting scenario that, people do gamble a lot of money on it. Same thing as the Kentucky Derby. You know what I mean? It's the once a year thing. Is it a problem? Honestly, if you have a gambling addiction, you were gambling way before the NCAA tournament, March Madness came along. Yeah, you may bet more during that, but unfortunately the issue was probably there. And then you also have to remember that 99% of the people can gamble and it's not an issue for them, and I think we forget that, sometimes when, they'll see us, whether we go to an outreach event or they see CCPG at an outreach event, people are like, oh, yeah, no, and they shun from us. And, we like to tell people we're gambling neutral. We're not saying gambling is bad. Of course not. People do it. It's fun. It's entertainment. Even betting on the NCAA or the Kentucky Derby, it's entertainment for people. It's just, it's the 1% to 2% that it becomes a real problem for, is what we're here for.
Right. So playing responsibly, of course,
Absolutely.
Is totally doable, and most people can do that with no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and highlighting this important issue. It's one of those things that I think some people don't even think of as like a public health issue, but you and I have really outlined some reasons why it can be, and some of the relationships, that it has with other behavioral health disorders. And then, of course, stressing that help is available and recovery is possible. So thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you for having me. And
yes. Yeah, absolutely. This was great.
That we're
excellent. Here. And we will put your contact information up so everyone can get it. And can you tell us again what the number is to reach you?
Yeah, the Connecticut Council Problem Gambling, the helpline number for them is 1-888-789-7777. Or you can call us, Bettor Choice at UCFS directly at 860-823-3094.
Terrific. Awesome. That is all the time that we have for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us next time right here on Healthwatch.